Well, hey, I'm almost ready. We're doing part 2 of our Showgirl costume today, so I'll see you out there. Well, hello, thank you for joining me again. This is part 2 of our tutorial where we're talking about the shoulder piece of a Showgirl costume. We get to do kind of the fun stuff today. In the first part of the tutorial, we actually just made the shoulder piece and I showed you how to do the strapping and everything to hold up all of the feathers and the decorations. Well, today we actually get to do the decorating, the fun part. So we're gonna be adding feathers and fabrics and stones to that shoulder piece to make our costume just look absolutely amazing on stage. So let's get to the drag studio and let's get started decorating our Showgirl shoulder piece costume. I will meet you there. Alright, this part of our tutorial is going to be about decorating our backpack piece for our Showgirl costume. You know, last time we made these pieces that go on to our plywood. So I guess the first thing that you gotta do is like decide what fabric that you want to use to decorate with. I like this fabric. It's something that I had purchased and I already have a bodysuit made out of it. So my costume is gonna be a complete bodysuit and the whole backpack piece is all gonna be out of the same fabric. You might decide to do something different than that. The first thing that I wanted to show you was I like to cover these parts in the fabric that I'm going to be having for my bodysuit, and that way it kind of camouflages these and you won't notice them on my shoulders. So what I'm going to do for that is I cut out a piece of my fabric that is 4 inches wide and it is 34 inches long. And basically I'm just making like a sleeve that can slide over this piece. So what you'll do is buckle it and then you'll slide the sleeve down to cover up the buckles. So the way that you do that is you take this piece and you turn it inside out, and then we're going to sew the end of it and all the way down the edges of it. But then we're going to leave this bottom end unsewn down here, and that way we can slide it onto the aluminum. So we're just going to go across the one end with the serger, and then we're going to serge down the side of it. Alright, so now we got to turn this thing inside out. I've got like a long screwdriver here. You just need something that you can kind of put inside of there to turn it inside out. There we go. I think I'll put the screwdriver back in the other end. I can kind of poke those corners out. All right. And then this just slides on the back part of this aluminum, and we'll slide it all the way on. You don't even have to do this, but I just think it gives it like a really nice finishing touch if this is all like covered. And then what I want to do is figure out where the holes are that I drilled in that aluminum, and I'm going to cut that out with the scissors. I can feel them in here, it's not hard. Just make a little bit of a hole. You have to do that on the front side and then also on your back side. And I'll do the same thing then with the second hole up here. But let me just show you how that works then. You can take and put your bolt then through the fabric and the aluminum, and then you'll put it into your back piece. And I really don't even have to bolt that. But we'll do that second hole up here. But then what happens is when you take and bolt this together, this will be attached in here, but when you take and buckle this together, then you can slide this down over the top of your buckle. And it like hides all of that black buckle, so that when you're wearing the costume, all you're going to see is this part. This was the plywood part that was on our back piece, and I just laid it down. This is the fabric that I'm going to be decorating it with. And all I did was cut that fabric about 2 or 3 inches larger than the plywood piece. And we're just going to be doing spray adhesive, so I put a little blanket down on my table to protect the table. You want to, if you're using spray adhesive, make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. All right, we're going to spray our fabric with some of this spray adhesive. You could also use some different types of glue if you want to. This seemed like it worked pretty good, at least for the tutorial, because that way it'll dry quicker. I'm going to spray the fabric, and I'm also going to spray the piece of wood. And you kind of let them dry. Alright, so I sprayed glue on the plywood, and I also sprayed glue on my fabric. And I'm going to center the plywood on the fabric. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over and flatten it all out. We did pretty good. And then we're going to flip the plywood over and wrap the fabric around it. Just by doing the same thing again, we're going to do spray adhesive on the plywood part, and then we'll wrap the fabric around it. But now we're just going to wrap this around and attach it, and we'll do these corners kind of like if you're doing a Christmas present. So far what I've done on this headdress is I've cut a piece of felt, and I've made it an inch smaller than our board. And this is the board, you know, where we had the fabric on the bottom, and I wrapped it around and glued it on this side. So then I cut this piece of thick felt an inch smaller, which gives me a 1/2 inch around the edges. Alright, so this, I want to show you on another headdress how I do my feathers. So this is the part that we're going to be working on next. And you can see here that I've drawn all these lines. This is 3-inch black elastic. And I've sewn little pockets in this elastic all the way around. And the reason why I'm doing that is because that's where you're going to insert your feathers. So I've got some feathers here, and I can show you. All you do is take and you lift up this elastic like this, and then you slide the feather underneath there. And you just go along and put feathers in all the way around. Just like that. And you can put several feathers in each one. And you can do different lengths of feathers as well and different colors. So this is what we're trying to accomplish on the piece that we're working on now. Alright, so let's move this to the side. Now what I've done here, like I told you, I cut this felt, and then the next thing I did was I got our elastic. So this is the elastic that I got from the fabric store. It's 3 inches wide. And what I've done is I've cut 2 pieces that are the same size. And then I've cut 2 pieces that are a little bit shorter. They're also equal, but they're shorter. So this is the very top of my headdress. So I'm gonna go down about 1 inch from where the felt is. And this would go on like this. And then these shorter pieces go on down here. So this is where my head would be, and this is where my shoulders are. And I don't need feathers like behind me going down on the floor, so that's why I'm not continuing this elastic all the way down. So what I need to do is I'm gonna spray this elastic with a little bit of spray adhesive. Not enough to make it stick really good, but just enough to hold it down onto this felt. And I'm gonna put it all down. And then I'm going to start drawing the lines on the elastic where I need to sew it onto the felt. And we're doing all of this when the felt still is not attached to the board, because obviously we can't sew through a piece of plywood. So we'll sew it all first and then we'll glue it down afterwards. And then there's one other thing that I wanted to tell you about. I know this is complicated, but we're going to figure it out. I'm also using Velcro. Once our headdress is all done and we get all the feathers in, I want the back of it to look pretty too. So I don't want to see just a black back. So I'm going to take and get a piece of lightweight foam core, and I'm going to cover it with our same fabric, the silver fabric that we're using. And I'm going to put that on the back after we get all of our feathers in. And I want a way to attach that to the back, but I want it to be able to come off when we're ready to take the feathers out. So that's what this Velcro is for. This is going to go on 3 of the corners, the very top and 2 sides. And then that way I'll be able to Velcro that back piece to our shoulder piece to cover the feathers. I know it's complicated, but it's going to make sense, I promise. All right, I'm going to get this glued down and then we'll start making our lines on it. The next thing I did was I measured and found the center point by going across here and finding the center, going across here and finding the center. The next thing I did was I put a 1-inch mark on the inside of the elastic pieces all the way around. And now what we can do is we can measure from our center point onto one of these lines and draw a line. And I can just go all the way down. And what this is doing is it's getting our lines in the correct angle so that they all have a center point. And then when you're wearing the headdress, the feathers will be going in the right angle. Center point, line. And this line is where I'm going to sew and make that little pocket for the feathers. And now I'm just going to go all the way around and I'm going to sew, make these lines all the way around the entire thing. I went along and drew all of these lines in. I went from the center point and I lined it up with each of our 1-inch lines, and I put all these lines all the way around. And then I also took some spray adhesive and kind of hooked this Velcro down a little bit. This is the soft side of the Velcro, the fuzzy side. I don't want that to stick really good. I just want to hold it down while I'm sewing. Now remember, none of this is attached yet to the back of our back piece. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to this sewing machine and I'm gonna sew on these white lines. It's very tedious, it takes a while, but you just sew on the white line on every single line all the way around. Alright, so we went to the sewing machine and we sewed each one of these white lines that we drew on there. And I can kind of show you. So now see, there's like a pocket there, and this is how you'll attach your feathers because it's sewn right there. And then I brought the felt and the elastic back, and then I just used the same spray adhesive and I attached it to the back of our backpack piece. And then I also put some stones on here. I just glued those on, some decorating that I wanted to do. And you can see here that I sewed the Velcro on where the pieces met, and that way we can slide. I only sewed on there and there on each side of the Velcro, and that way you can slide feathers underneath there too. And then remember, the reason for this Velcro is because once I'm wearing this thing, I want it to also look pretty from the back. So I went and bought some foam core. You've all seen this stuff. It's just from the craft store. They use it back in the framing department. And it's very, very lightweight. And I took a piece of that and I just cut it 1 inch smaller than our backpack piece. And I used the same spray adhesive and sprayed the fabric onto it and wrapped it around the back. And then on these 3 corners, this is Velcro. I don't have a lot of luck gluing Velcro down to anything, so what I did was I sewed the Velcro onto a piece of felt, and then I glued that felt down onto the foam core. So I sewed the Velcro on right here, and then glued the felt down onto the foam core, and it's really strong now. And so then the idea of this is, once we put all of our feathers in, and then these are the pieces for your shoulder, so I would also screw those all in. And then when you get all that done, then you just put this down on the back of it and it Velcros down to the other piece. And then that hides everything in the back that you don't want everybody to see. Well, we finally finished our Showgirl costume. We got that harness built with all the straps, and we put the foam core on it, the fabric, all the stones, all the feathers. Now we're gonna put the whole thing together, and I want you to see what the costume looks like on stage. Here's a video I took. Take a look. Well, our costume was a huge success, and I'm excited for you to make one too, because I know it's going to be a huge success for you as well. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like it, share it. I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel. My name is Sharon ShareAlike, and until next time, bye-bye.